When we talk about Hitler and the Third Reich, we're not talking about a single event or even a dozen. We're talking about a machine. A machine built by a modern state, powered by a hateful ideology, for one purpose, to reshape all, by taking lives.
Ist ein Symbol einer neuen Gemeinschaft geworden. Und so erneuern wir denn auch jedes Jahr wieder.
This isn't a story about a cartoon villain. It's more terrifying than that. It's the story of how charismatic leadership, nationalist grievance, and pseudo-scientific racism were weaponized in the heart of 20th century Europe. And the result was an industrial-scale evil we are still trying to comprehend. To understand the crimes, you first have to understand the blueprint. Hitler didn't hide his goals. He spelled them out in Mein Kampf and in his speeches. His ideology rested on three core, poisonous pillars. Pillar 1, a master race. He believed in a strict hierarchy of humans, with the so-called Aryan or Germanic race at the top as the sole creators of culture. Everyone else was inferior. Pillar 2, the ultimate enemy. For Hitler, Jews were not a religion, but a global, parasitic race. In his twisted logic, they were responsible for everything he hated: communism, capitalism, modern art, all seen as tools for weakening Germany. Pillar 3, Lebensraum. Living space. Germany's destiny, he said, was to conquer vast lands to the east: Poland, Ukraine, Russia. The native Slavic peoples there? They were to be exterminated, enslaved, or driven out, their land taken for Germany. This wasn't abstract. This was a literal plan for conquest and annihilation. And from 1933 onward, the Nazi state began building the machine to carry it out. It started with laws. The 1935 Nuremberg laws stripped German Jews of citizenship, banning marriage with non-Jews. It was legalized hatred. Then came state-sponsored violence, like Kristallnacht in 1938, the night of broken glass, where synagogues were burned, businesses looted, and thousands sent to camps. It was a test, a process of dehumanization. Strip people of rights, then property, then dignity. Make them others in the eyes of their neighbors. And Jews were not the only targets. The machine was designed to purge Germany of anyone who didn't fit the Aryan ideal. People with physical or mental disabilities were labeled life unworthy of life. The Roma and Sinti peoples were deemed racially inferior. Political opponents, communists, socialists, trade unionists, were thrown into the newly built concentration camps like Dachau. Gay men were criminalized and persecuted. The machine was warming up. In 1939, Hitler launched the machine outward. World War II wasn't just a war for territory, it was a war of annihilation, driven by that blueprint for Lebensraum. The invasion of Poland and later the Soviet Union was executed with a chilling brutality explicitly ordered from the top. This was the Generalplan Ost, the Master Plan East. Its goal? To kill or starve tens of millions of Slavic people, Poles, Russians, Ukrainians, to make room for German colonists. Soviet prisoners of war were not treated as prisoners, they were seen as racial inferiors. Over 3 million died. And then, for the Jews of Europe, the machine entered its most horrific phase. By 1941, the Nazi leadership made a fateful decision. The sporadic massacres in ghettos weren't efficient enough. They convened at a villa in Wannsee to coordinate the final solution to the Jewish question. Jews from across occupied Europe were rounded up, packed into cattle cars, and shipped to purpose-built factories of death, extermination camps. Auschwitz-Birkenau, Treblinka, Sobibor, hell no. This is where the Nazi evil achieved its most terrifying form. It wasn't just chaotic violence. It was a bureaucratic, systematic process. Arrival and selection. A Nazi doctor would point left or right, to temporary slave labor, or directly to the gas chambers. Murder, using pesticides Cyclone B. People were killed en masse in chambers disguised as showers. An estimated 6 million Jewish men, women, and children were murdered in this way. Entire families, communities, and 1,000 years of European Jewish culture were erased. Alongside them, millions of others, Roma, disabled individuals, were killed. When the Allies liberated the camps in 1945, they found the unimaginable. The world struggled to find the words. We had to invent new ones: genocide, crimes against humanity. The total death toll of World War II and the Nazi regime is estimated between 70 and 85 million people. But the Holocaust stands apart, not for its numbers alone, but for its cold, ideological, industrial nature. It showed us that evil is not just a monster in the shadows. It can be a system. It can wear a uniform. It can use typewriters and timetables. We study this history not to dwell on horror, but for a stark warning. It happened in a modern, educated society. It happened because dehumanization was allowed to become policy, because propaganda replaced truth, and because the world was slow to believe the reports. The memory of the victims demands that we recognize the blueprint of hatred in any form before the machine can ever be built again.